Yo, we just people from the north side. Once and Timmy's at the shore fine. Winter ready on the full ties. Heavy traffic during 4-5. Gotta hustle on your own time. Color people every port side. We just people from the north side.
Ladies and gentlemen, Straight Talk Wrestling here. Live pre-recorded Destiny Wrestling Haywire tapings. I'm sitting down with a surprise. Somebody who no one knows is here, but by the time this airs, everyone will know you're here.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, everyone will know you're here. So it's all good. We're under wrap. Simon Miller, the legend. How are you, man?
The legend.
The legend.
I'll take that.
Everybody in my eyes is a legend.
Oh, that's kind of both great and bad. Because I appreciate the fact you're so positive, but also if everyone's a legend, then nobody's a legend. I will take it. I will take it.
Listen, everyone I get to talk to, everyone I get to have conversations with, I've been grinding at this for 9 years, so anybody that gives me the time, anybody that's willing to sit down and have a chat with just this little guy from, I shouldn't say little, but this rather semi-large man from Canada who just loves pro wrestling, I appreciate it so much.
Oh, no, dude. I mean, I'm still in it, but I started in the content game, if that's the right way to put it. Mm-hmm. That's what led me to pro wrestling, so if anybody else is passionate about it and they think I can help them, I'm here, man, 100%.
So I always like to start off with just an easygoing question. It's something that it's a debate in the world of the world today, and that's pineapple on pizza. Is it a thing? Are you a fan of pineapple on pizza? I prefer it to be Hawaiian pizza is all four food groups for me. You've got your bread,
Yep.
you got your dairy and
Yep.
the cheese, you've got your meat and the ham or whatever you choose, and you got your fruit and the pineapple. Really, it is the four food group pizza.
It wouldn't be my go-to.
No.
I am astounded by the reaction to it. Because I've had pineapple on a pizza. I think it tastes pretty good. And also, when you go to fancy soirees, what do they have on a stick? Cheese and pineapple.
Cheese and pineapple.
All a pizza is cheese on toast. That's all it is. It's cheese on bread. That is it. So I have no problem with the pineapple on a pizza. Not, in fact, I'd have to think about it. It could probably sneak into my top 6. Genuinely. If I really had to, there'll be other things that I'd push far away. I'm having pineapple on a pizza before anchovies, all right?
Yeah,
I don't like anchovies.
Nobody
So
likes anchovies.
I don't get the controversy. I don't get it.
I don't get it either. It's so heated. It's almost like, Bush or Camilla Harris. Who do you go for? You know what I mean? I'm not asking you to get political. I'm not asking you to get political.
British, I stay out of that.
Well, you know what? Us being under British rule, we have learned to appreciate. I'm also quarter Scottish, so I love the UK. I love the United Kingdom. Guys like you, guys like Ospreay, guys like Joe Hendry, guys that are just out there grinding, Danimo. All those guys that are out there just grinding, having a good time, that put British strong style on the scene. Our former champion, Trent Seven. I always find British pro wrestling to be some of the hardest hitting, some of the most fast paced, and some of the best kept secret. But it's not a secret anymore. Everybody knows how gifted UK wrestlers are.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting as well because what I am trying to do is also bring back another part of the UK wrestling scene, not been forgotten at all, but just needs to be showcased more, which is, again, you used to watch World of Sport back in the day, you had some larger-than-life, over-the-top characters. So when I started getting into wrestling, a lot of people who were way more experienced and smart than I was like, Simon, that's a perfectly fine thing to lean into. So if you want to be the character guy, and again, you go through the roster back in the day, and we had absolutely loads of them. And then, in many ways, I kind of see the British Bulldog that was sort of the first UK guy to maybe have it on an international stage, I suppose. He kind of blended those two. I mean, he came out with the big United Kingdom flag, and he had quite literally some bizarre promos that he used to cut. So that's what I really like about British wrestling is that there is that expectation for sure, but you can also tie it into, again, the personality side of wrestling, which sometimes, look at Joe Hendry, right? Joe Hendry can go, but what really sort of sent him to the next level was figuring out who he was and how he wanted to showcase him on a main stage. So, yeah, a lot of good stuff coming from the UK. And, there's this idea that, it's not as good as it was in 2016. Listen, man, we're never going to be able to replicate what we did in 2016, but that is doing it a disservice today. The UK wrestling scene, there's some really cool promotions. You can work every weekend. You get big houses. It's a cool place to be.
UK, again, like you said, it's such a great scene, but it has so many niche, fan bases. You got ICW that's got a niche fan base. You got Progress that's got a niche fan base. When you're over there, and like you said, you can work every weekend. I'm not asking you to pick a favorite promotion. Which crowd is the most lit?
Oh, no.
Which crowd do you have the most fun at?
I'm totally biased. Because
Okay.
I'm totally biased because I work for Progress every single month. And I just won the Proteus title there, and everyone was really nice to me. Progress is the best UK wrestling promotion. Honestly, I said this in the promos that we put out there. When I started wrestling, because of my background in YouTube and stuff, people are like, Progress will never book you. That was probably true at a time, but I like to think through hard work and tenacity and believing in yourself and all that nonsense, we were able to open some doors. So, there's some amazing companies, RevPro, ICW, like you say, North, they're growing right now. But in terms of, again, my own personal bias, Progress is my number one, and it always will be.
And that's why I wanted to do that, because I know you just recently won that title. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. See, the research flows. It's natural. You got to have that chemistry and that charisma in order to flow in a conversation, or else you're just there going, so where did you train? And how did you?
No, it's really good.
So speaking of which, actually, again, a perfect segue. Training with Al Snow, one of probably the most underrated minds in pro wrestling. And that is the truth. I look at Al Snow as a complete pro wrestling genius. He is someone that knows the business, knows how to tell stories, knows how to build characters.
Oh, he really does.
And knows how to think outside the box, but yet still flourish inside the box when he has to. What's it like learning under the tree that is Al Snow?
So, it won't show up on camera. I'll show you afterwards. I have essentially what is a scalp scar on my head from where I could not do flip bumps. Just couldn't do them. So what I did is I went to a flip bump and I literally, scraped my head along the mat and I got rid of a chunk of skin. That's what scalping used to be. I had to go to hospital. It was a whole thing. And again, Al Snow would be there sort of like 2 to 3 times a month. So if you used to go as many times as I did, they'd have, I don't want to call them secondary trainers because they were very, very good. But Al was the lead guy. When he could fly in, he could fly in. And he honestly got me doing flip bumps in, 20 minutes within a session? Just with his techniques, the way that he talks to you. And it wasn't the other guys were bad. It's just because he's that good. And the best thing about Al Snow is once you've trained under him, he never forgets about you. He always asks about you, always wants to know what you're doing. It's almost a bit like a father figure in wrestling, which sounds silly, but it is true. And yeah, to see him work firsthand, I remember telling people, you can see why he was the tough enough trainer, you can see why he's the OVW guy. He just knows how to approach everybody in a different way. And look, without him, I wouldn't be sat here right now. He was a true sort of, mentor at the beginning foundations of my wrestling training. Maybe I would have given up, we do not know. So yeah, I can't say enough good things about Al Snow.
Well, I'm glad you didn't give up because, like I said, I've enjoyed your work. And you know what? I look at your career, and please don't take the parallels as an insult at all, but I look at you and Zack Ryder, 2 internet-based wrestlers that really took to it in another level and made it their own. Character-based or not, Zack Ryder was awesome. What he did on YouTube in the early days, yourself as well. Like, you guys parallel a lot. Wouldn't that be an awesome story to tell? Have you and Matt Cardona facing each other, stare down at progress? That would be something.
Well, it's funny you say that. 2 things. Matt Cardona was way ahead of me. Matt Cardona opened that door. I think it's really important to make that out because, my stuff was like 2016. His was like 2011 or whatever it was.
Yeah, so he opened the door and you were able to step through.
Absolutely, but he made that viable. I think people need to remember that. But when I did win the Proteus title and I tweeted it out because that's what we do, Matt Cardona did quote tweet that and he just said 3 simple words, I won it. He was referring to the championship. I responded saying it's on. So Matt Cardona knows, anytime, any place, but it has to be progress because of the belt. But they'll book you, it's fine.
That's fine. That's true. Yeah. That's awesome. Matt Cardona, now you have to come on Straight Talk, and I've been trying to hit you up because now we got to get the battle going.
He kicked my ass is the problem, but that's fine. I'm resilient and I'm tough, so I'll be fine.
You would kick my ass any day on the week if you had 2 broken arms and a broken knee.
No, I wouldn't. I'd be at home crying.
No, I don't think so. I think that's a straight up lie. I appreciate the effort, but I think it's a straight up lie. I'm geeking out right now because I'm sitting down talking to you, but I also get to call a match night. And like I said, now that this will air well after your appearance, but people will know you're here. It's so cool to have this indie feel and to be able to travel the world like you are. What's the coolest thing about coming to different countries, different continents, soaking up the culture? First off, can you hear the Canadian accent? I can hear it, but you can hear it, eh?
I love the Canadian accent.
It really? Can you do a Canadian accent? What's a Canadian accent sound like?
Well, the things I know it's out for are the A's, which I love, and then there's the boots.
Yeah, boots.
I love an boot.
Yeah,
a boot makes me so happy, man. I love that stuff.
I really do try to say about as much as can, but the boots come
don't
through.
Do it. Do a boot. A boot's much better than stupid about. I think for me, again, we'll go back to the Al Snow stuff. When I took my first bump, someone had told me, they'll book you in America, they'll book you in Canada. I've worked in South Korea. Like, why? How? What's going on? So I think it's just I feel humbled by it. I think it's really, really cool. Like, I've come out to Canada to wrestle. And again, I don't mean this in a bad way, but maybe it goes well, maybe it doesn't. It's wrestling. Sometimes, things fall apart. But the fact I get to do it to begin with is an experience in itself. And again, I don't take that lightly. So that's the coolest thing. Being around here, meeting people, realizing that wrestling's the same all over the world. It's just cool, man. And again, once again, just to really, really double down on it, I see it as a privilege. I do. And the fact I get to do that is awesome.
Absolutely, it is awesome. It's fantastic. You get to have fun with it. You get to be yourself, and you're also, again, character-based wrestling is something that was so thriving at one point. Now it's really lost. It really is lost because everybody doesn't do the character-based stuff. They don't really have the fun with it. Do you think, like, in a way, wrestling's lost a step by not being able to, have the fun?
No, I think they still exist. I just think it's like anything. It goes in waves, right? So you could argue that mid-90s WWF was super character work.
It was.
But people hated it.
They did. They absolutely hated it. I mean, come on, Dukes the Dumpster Drosy. I love the guy. I've interviewed him. He's awesome. But I didn't want to be a garbage man as a kid. I don't want to cheer for a garbage man.
As we are talking about this, Repo Man is the greatest wrestler ever. I mean,
100%. Well, what about Abe Knuckleball Schwartz?
No. Repo Man was my guy.
Come on, Abe Knuckleball Schwartz was awesome.
Nah, baseball's never that big in England, so I didn't care.
Yeah, so it's not that big in England. Well, what about you had the cliche Canadian teams. You had the Mounties, you had the Quebecers.
Well, the Mountie was awesome.
Yeah, the Mountie
Big
was
Boss Man SummerSlam feud.
Yeah, come on, when he goes to jail.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's absolutely awesome.
One of the best shticks ever.
I agree, but maybe we have moved away from that a little bit because it's more. Well, what happened is it's more about the actual person behind the mask or whatever, right? So, I don't know, Drew McIntyre is very similar to Drew Galloway, but there are still people doing it, and I think that's maybe everybody can't do it. But again, where we sat right now, Santino Marella was one of the kings of pulling that off, and I know he's been retired for a while in terms of whether he's moved on from his WWE run, but now he's back in TNA doing his thing. But you do. I mean, Joe Hendry, he's a character, like for sure. Again, I'm not taking anything away from what he can do in the ring, but he understands the character kind of stuff. And there's people like Danhausen and Orange Cassidy in a way. He's a character. So no, I do think it's still there. I just think maybe on the indie scene, which I totally understand, some people are more focused on what they do in the ring bell to bell, which of course is super important. But if you can get a bit of silliness and a bit of dumbness and a bit of goofiness in there too, to me, that's the secret sauce. That's what makes wrestling so great.
So that's the Big Mac sauce.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, the number one. Yeah.
The number one.
Yeah.
So when you're back home, I mean, and you have a chance to wind down and stuff. What's your go-to food? What does Simon Miller enjoy eating?
Well, if it's a cheat day.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go cheat day. I don't want to talk about.
Boring.
No, I don't want to talk about any of that. I want to talk about cheat days.
Well, I mean, it used to be Mexican heavy, and then throwing a pizza in there, throwing some nachos. But very sadly, a lot of people know this now. We're through an ordeal. 2 years ago, I got diagnosed with a dairy allergy. So dairy can kill me these days, which isn't so great. So I've had to shift it around a little bit. But anything even if it tastes like cheese, that's fine. It doesn't have to be cheese.
Soy cheese, right?
But yeah, it's not so bad. Coconut cheese. It's the one I like. It's
Really?
okay. But anything like that, so we can still make our own pizzas. Big ice cream fan, again. Still have to eat stupid ice cream, but it still tastes good. So, yeah, I mean, every cheat meal I had every single week before I got diagnosed with this was literally as much nachos and Doritos I could stick into my face. As much pizza, usually from Pizza Hut, it's a big Pizza Hut guy, I could stick into my face, and then a bucket of ice cream. And that never got boring to me. It was the greatest thing ever.
You know what? You and I could be food buddies, really, because I have had a lot of practice in the art of eating food.
That just makes you happy, man.
I am happy.
Yeah.
Well, I married an Italian woman, so she keeps me perfectly fed. Now, I have to ask this. I mean, the UK has a lot of delectable amazingness that it is. Fish and chips. You've got your, being from Scotland, I have had haggis.
Hell yeah.
Homemade haggis. Are you a fan of haggis? Do you think haggis gets a bad rap for just what it is?
I don't like haggis. I did try it. It's just not for me. But I don't like black pudding either. I don't want to eat a clump of blood. That's not
Yeah, but it's not half bad.
maybe. I think for me, it's probably I lose the mental game.
Okay.
Knowing what haggis is and knowing what black pudding is, I just can't. So I can't really eat liver either. I know it's good for you.
Yeah, no, I'm not a big fan of liver.
No, so I think for me, the food wins in the mental game.
Okay.
But look, I respect haggis, and it's like, I think in Scotland it sells in such high quantities, it has to be considered a smash success. So, if
Yeah,
anything,
you go to Scotland and don't have a haggis.
yeah,
What are you doing?
I'm the idiot here, right? I'm the one that's missing out.
I didn't say that.
No, oh, trust me, I'm well aware. But so I understand the power of the haggis. Just me personally, I'm too much of a baby to do it. So
Fair enough. One more question, I'll let you go get ready for the match. But, I mean, you've worked with some legends in this game. You've had the privilege of being under the learning tree of guys like Al Snow, had experiences with Will Ospreay. I mean, just when you look back at your career and everything that you've been able to accomplish, it's 2016. We're coming up on, 8 years.
yeah, well, there was a 2-year pause.
Okay, fine. 2 year
the world
No,
closed
I
down.
don't count COVID. Still, regardless, 8 years you lacing up the boots. Whether there was a 2-year break or not, that was nobody's fault. That was actually that was one person's fault. Patient zero. But other than that, we can't talk about patient zero. But when you look at your career and all the stuff that you've been able to accomplish, and now winning this Progress title, I mean, 2016, Simon Miller, ever think that this could happen?
No, that's a great way to put it. That's why even if I was forced to retire tomorrow, of course I would be upset. But I've achieved way more than I thought possible. Which mostly, I think that's probably based on my own expectations. I didn't really know what to expect. I don't think. Obviously, I wanted to do as well as I possibly could. But again, the Progress thing last weekend was super cool. I think that was probably the defining moment so far in my career, just because of the reaction that it got. I couldn't believe it. But again, coming out here, I think I've wrestled more in America this year than I have in the UK. That's totally crazy. And again, I've been in the ring with people like James Storm. I have wrestled Joe Hendry. I've been on shows with Will Ospreay. Jeff Jarrett's been on shows I've been on. It's just, it genuinely is overwhelming, and it's super duper cool. So I think obviously we all want to get to the main event of WrestleMania. That would be the greatest thing ever. But sometimes just taking stock of what you are doing, It's a wonderful thing. Wrestling has brought me a lot, and I'm very grateful for it.
I love that. Wrestling brought us together, and this is magic. This is a bromance that's happening before everyone's eyes.
I can feel it in my tum-tum right now.
You do, right?
Yeah.
You know what? I after tonight, let's go out to Zet's Greek food.
don't know
Are you
what
down?
that is, but
Zet's
yeah,
is Greek food.
oh,
It's the
let's
best
go.
Greek food.
Let's go.
We're gonna do it.
Absolutely.
Done. It's a
Easy.
date. It's a bro date. It's not like that. It's a bro date.
It's a date.
It's a
Either
date.
way, it's fine.
It's
It's a
a date.
date.
So that mean I have to pay then if it's a date?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Fine. That's fine. Great. I'm gonna have to mortgage my house now to cover his meal.
That's
He's
fine.
gonna eat all kinds of
That's an
protein.
expensive restaurant.
Before I go, can you say, hey man, I had a blast on Straight Talk. People should give me a chance because I hope I'm pretty good at what I do.
Absolutely. I think you should all be watching Straight Talk Wrestling. And if you're not, I'm going to come find you. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to get mad at you. We're going to sit down and we're going to have a very intelligent conversation. Because I'm not that kind of a guy. Check it out. It's really good. I'm happy to be here.
Peace, love, and wrestling, guys. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Yo. We just people from the north side. Once the Timmy's hit the shorefine. Winter ready on the full ties. Heavy traffic during 4-5. Gotta hustle on your own time. Color people every port side. We just people from the north side.